welcome to webinar 2 for our assistance to non-funded projects. This is Catalyst project 1200036, where we are helping to provide assistance to projects that were not yet funded through the Catalyst project, giving them some guidance so that they can hopefully reapply in a more successful way. So we've put together this presentation. If you missed the first part of this one, we have another webinar that was before this that really looked into how funding is decided when it comes to Catalyst projects, specifically looking at Fund 11 and Fund 12 that have now finished, why some projects were not funded, how the funding decisions are made, how the decision of which category your project goes into can also affect your possibility of getting funded. So if you guys like getting into nitty-gritty data details, please make sure you check out video 1. It'll be in this playlist. And it's really fantastic to go through and understand a little bit more about how the funding process works when it comes to Catalyst. Today's topic, though, is building awareness in Cardano and where to go for help, which is also a very important thing to discuss. And we will go into it. Okay. So let's just make this a little bigger for me. So to prepare for this and as part of this grant, we surveyed dozens of projects that applied for the Catalyst project and were not funded, and also some that were, but we wanted to learn more about common pain points and really understand what the feeling was from people who've been applying to the Catalyst program. So what we have learned is that a lot of people do not know how to engage with the community, hence way of making this webinar. A lot of them don't know where to find the community. A lot of them don't know how to communicate about their project, which is really just, we're going to talk a little bit about marketing and how to market your project to the community once you found them, and not knowing where to get help. So these are some really basic questions that actually can hugely affect how effective you are in your projects when it comes to getting funded. So we're super excited to talk about these. The idea of this, like I said, is to help prepare you to reapply for Catalyst Fund 14, or for those of you who possibly are in the current round of Fund 13, which starts voting tomorrow, or possibly today if you're watching this on YouTube. So we're here to help you prepare. If you have any questions, please feel free to speak up or drop them in the chat, and I am happy to answer questions. So building awareness and engagement. Funding is granted through the community. So it's important to remember that Project Catalyst is actually, it's a really cool program where money is really allocated to people who are providing value to the community by members of the Cardano community. So I think it's really fantastic. People are able to express what they really want to see built on Cardano or for the Cardano community to help improve it. And I think that right there is one of your keys, is no matter what you're doing, anything you're doing for Project Catalyst needs to be saying, this is how we're going to improve your user experience, this is how we're going to improve Cardano itself, this is how we're going to improve something cool that you're doing on Cardano. So your engagement with the community and communication of the project is just as important as a workable project. And that's very clear because there are tons of workable projects that get submitted to Project Catalyst that do not get funded. Obviously, you need to be able to show that your project can be successful once it's funded. But one of the most important things you need to do besides that is actually let people know about your project. So there were 178 proposed projects that were voted over the approval threshold by the Cardano community, but were not over the threshold enough to receive funding. If that doesn't make sense to you, what it means is that they basically got kind of voted in. It means that people wanted the project, but not enough to push it over the approval threshold so that they were able to receive their funding. If you were one of those projects, I'm sure it was incredibly frustrating. And that is one of the reasons why I hope you're watching this webinar, so that we can talk about ways to get more people to vote for your project, to really push you over the top and get you funded and let you take your project onto Cardano. So this is not just about getting people to vote for you, it's getting enough people with their ADA to vote for you. Remember that people are voting with the power of the ADA that they've taken during the snapshot. The snapshot was taken 7 days ago if you're watching this live, or on the 20th of November if you're watching this on YouTube, where that was anyone who wanted to participate in the voting round had to have their ADA in a special spot, so that the snapshot could determine how much voting power each person had, and how much ADA was being used through this. So as you're getting voted on, remember that you can aim for what's often called a whale, a person who has so much ADA they can throw it behind your project and you're instantly funded. Just remember that those people can be hard to find unless you already know that person. And you really shouldn't put all of your eggs in one basket. You should be talking to the rest of the Cardano community and letting them know about your project. If you're creating some kind of cool value, then you should have dozens of people that want to vote for you, not just this one person that you've talked into it. So talk to the community, get them to vote for your project. And while you're talking to them, you're going to hear more feedback from them too about ways that you can improve upon your project if for some reason you don't get funded this round. And we're going to talk about feedback in a little bit as well. Yeah. Okay. Visibility and engagement by the numbers. Of the projects that were not funded that we interviewed, 63.6% had less than 1,000 followers on X, formerly known as Twitter, and 18.1% had over 5,000 followers on X, formerly known as Twitter. So what does this mean? It does not mean that the number of followers you have on Twitter determine how likely you are to get funded. It does mean that you need to be doing more work to get more eyeballs on it, because your follower count is eyeballs. But like we said, there's this 18% there. They had over 5,000 followers on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, and they still didn't get funded. And that can be from a huge variety of reasons. It can be because they don't have the right audience on X. Because remember, the people who are voting this are not just people who are fans of blockchain or fans of crypto or fans of anything. They need to be Cardano ADA holders that have decided that they want to vote. So if your 5,000 followers are not ADA holders and they're not ADA holders that are registered to vote in this funding round, then it doesn't matter how many followers you have. So make sure that you're talking to people who are eligible to vote, and get them to spread the word. Obviously, if you have more people helping them help you spread the word about your project is great, but you really do need to be engaging specifically with the Cardano community. And you can do that many, many different ways. And no, it does not have to be on X, but that is still one of the primary places that you're going to find the Cardano community. Obviously, Crypto Twitter is there. It's still alive and well. So you will still find Cardano people there. You will still be able to engage with Cardano people there. And so it's still a place that I would suggest that you be. If you're not going to exist on Twitter, also known as X, then you really are going to have to work harder. So just as a note, but remember that it's so easy to be able to go on X and be able to engage with other people in the community, follow your hashtags. They're really easy to find. Hashtag Cardano community, hashtag Catalyst, Fund 13, or whatever fund you're in. And then follow specific accounts. There's tons of Cardano and Catalyst accounts. There's lots of ADA lover accounts. So find everything in there and engage with them. Talk to them about your project, talk to them about what they're doing with their projects, things that they would like to see on Cardano. All of these things are going to help cement your story and also help cement you as a part of the Cardano community, so that people are more likely to want to vote for you because you're already a part of the community. And on that note, it's time to learn how to talk to the community. So these are some points that we're going to discuss here. As you're talking to the community, you need to have a clear and detailed project proposal. This should include your visions, your values, your objectives, your roadmap, your budget, and your feasibility. If you've already applied for a Catalyst, whatever fund you're applying for, then you should have written these all out in a very clear fashion. If you didn't, it's unlikely that you're being reviewed very well. But you do need to make sure you know how to communicate these in a place other than writing it out in a Catalyst proposal. You need to take the time to develop, polish, and practice your sales and elevator pitches. We'll talk about that in a minute. To tell the story of your project in a clear, concise, and compelling way, and try to cut it down to one sentence. I know that sounds crazy. I feel like some people, when you ask them about their project, they're going to tell you this giant, long, almost white paper of their amazing project, and they're so excited and they can talk about it forever. But you need to be able to take it down to one sentence. And again, we're going to talk about that in a second, because it's one of the most important things you really need to be able to do, or you're not going to be able to talk to people about your project. You need to have pre-prepared answers ready for any and all questions you can think of. So get feedback from your friends, peers, advisors, and contacts. The more, the better. Talk to random people that know barely anything about blockchain or crypto and tell them about your project, and see what their questions are. And then talk to people who do know about Cardano and blockchain and crypto, and have them ask you questions as well, and try and be prepared with these questions. These are probably going to be questions other people will have as well. And if you either already have an answer, so whenever they ask you a question, you can say, oh yeah, here's your answer, it's right here. Or they don't even have to ask the question because you've already addressed it when you're talking to them. This is something positive. People like knowing that you have an answer already about whatever you're doing. And then do as much as you can without funding first. If you have not applied for a Catalyst fund round yet, please remember this as you're applying, that the best thing you can do is show that your project already has legs, that it's already able to function, and that it could just function even better with some funding to make it workable on Cardano. People like seeing a success story. They like knowing that they're going to put money behind something that is going to be achievable and is going to work. So you're more likely to get funded if you have something. And if you do have something that you've already proven works, make sure that's something that you're telling people. We already did this for this other blockchain. We already did this, and now we want to bring it on Cardano. We already did this, and people loved it, and here were some KPIs, and here's how we even improved it for the Cardano community to make it even better. These are all things that you should be doing. So let's dive into these with more detail, because these are some really important points that if you don't have these narrowed down, you're going to have a tough time talking with people. So how to promote a project in Cardano. Step one, you need to define what is the value. And the answer to that question needs to involve what is the value to the Cardano ecosystem. So you can say something very vague. We're going to help people get more ADA, or sorry, we're going to help people get more crypto. People are going to understand crypto more, and therefore they're more likely to buy a crypto. That's cool, but why should it be funded by Cardano? Because you're going to help them get more ADA. You're going to help get people onto the Cardano ecosystem. You're going to help make Cardano bigger because more people are going to buy ADA. Token price is going to go up, hopefully. All of this needs to be very specifically addressed towards the Cardano ecosystem. Anything you're talking about. So build the narrative around your project that you can do this, and that it's going to improve everything for Cardano. And then you can do this through storytelling. Everybody likes to hear a story. You saw from your friend that they were not able to buy crypto because they just really didn't understand it and they didn't know how to get a wallet. And therefore you helped them do this with this new visionary project or this new crazy wallet. And it's going to help everybody buy ADA instead of buying Bitcoin. Build a story around it. People like to follow a story. It's why we go to the movies. It's why we read books. We like stories. And your storytelling should have layers of complexity. So like I was saying, you should be able to say what your project is within a sentence. So I really do think that you should be able to have a 5-second value pitch of what your project is. And I know that sounds really scary to a lot of people because it's so short. But the thing is, it's in marketing or in the beginning of a video, anything like that, they call it the hook. What is your hook? Really fast, really grabs the attention, and it makes them want to go just a little bit further with you. And from the hook, you can go to the elevator pitch. If you don't know what an elevator pitch is, it's literally the idea that you should be able to get into an elevator with somebody and tell them the main idea of your project before they get to their floor on the elevator, which means less than a minute. You should be able to communicate the value that you're creating for the Cardano ecosystem in less than a minute as this elevator pitch. And then you can get into the nitty-gritty. You've hooked them with the 5-second value pitch, they stuck around for the elevator pitch, and then hopefully they followed that up with, well, how are you going to do that? That's where you can get into your nitty-gritty. I'm going to lovingly say a lot of us in Web3 and blockchain are giant nerds. That's a great thing. It's a cool thing. All of us are here. People voting on ADA are hopefully also nerds, but not all of them are. So you need to make sure you've given them the hook of here's a cool thing that we're going to do. Here's a little bit more detail. And then if they're the nerdy person and they say like, well, tell me about how you're going to code that, or tell me about how this works, you can get into the nitty-gritty. But if you do this in reverse, all you're going to get is eyes glazed over. I attended an event the other day where somebody was talking about their Catalyst project, and they said, you know, they had the opening. Somebody said, oh, great, tell me about your proposal. I want to hear about it. And they went into the technical detail and they talked about it for 5 minutes maybe. And by the time they finished, everyone was quiet because they were just like, we don't know what he even just said. And thankfully somebody was listening who was also a giant nerd and said like, oh, you're doing this. Summarized it in 5 words, and suddenly everyone wanted to know more about the project. How are you doing that? Did you do this for another ecosystem? Tell me more, because they needed to understand it from a high level first and then go into the detail. So it's something to keep in mind. You need to have all 3 layers of this. The cool part is that we're going to get into this. When you're talking on social media, you should use all 3 of those layers as content. So let's dive into that part. You've defined who you are, what you're offering to the community, and you need to put your message out there, which is fantastic because we just nailed down exactly what the message is. So consistency is key when it comes to social media. Regular posting is key. And now you have multiple pieces of content, right? You have your 5-second pitch, which you can make into like just a cool little design, or you can have a short little video where you're talking and you say this, 10 seconds, done, easy peasy, let people come back for more. That's content right there. Your elevator pitch is content right there. Your nitty gritty, nerdy fun, here's how we're gonna code it out and make it and build it. That could be like a white paper that you put out there, or it could be an infographic that you put out there. If you've done this somewhere else, then having KPIs or proven facts that this works. All of this is content that you can put out there. So reuse your content as much as possible and just put it in different formats. Some of it can be in text, some of it can be in images, infographics, put it in videos, put it in different types of videos, have some fun with it. Just get it out there. And always be true to exactly what it is. What is the value you're creating for the Cardano community? So those are your most basic things that you need to be doing. And that's what you should be addressing whenever you're doing any of the posting that you've set up. Okay, also to remember that people respond more to people. So don't avoid. Put your face out there as much as possible. If you're comfortable with putting your face out there, please do it. People are more likely to listen to you if they can see you. You're seeing this a lot with big brands out there as well. They're starting to put more of a face to the name because the same reason people respond to people. And in this case, especially because it's a Cardano community vote, it is very community oriented. So they really do want to see what's the face behind the idea. They want to see who you are, and they want to feel like kind of like they're talking to you. Okay. So remember that being on socials is about being social. So you should not only be posting about your project, but you should also be interacting with other projects and other people on social medias. So, like I said, there is always X, formerly known as Twitter, where you can find Cardano, you can find Catalyst on X. There's also a Cardano forum, there's Cardano on IdeaScale, there's also Cardano Discords. There's also Project Catalyst Discord. So use all of these places to find people to talk to about your project, and then use them to engage with, to get feedback from, and share your project, ask about their projects, just be friendly, be a part of the community. You will be rewarded for being a part of the community by other people embracing you as part of their community. So make positive contributions, be helpful, be as active as possible. I know that social media can be a little bit of a time suck. It takes energy and it takes time. You don't have to spend your entire day on social media, but dedicate maybe 30 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day, whatever you can afford, to hopping on there, talking with people, engaging with people, liking posts, sharing about your project, answering questions. Unless you have a dedicated person to do this all day long, it's probably just you doing a whole bunch of other things as well. So just set some time aside and take care of it then. Cool. KOLs. So KOL stands for Key Opinion Leader, in case you didn't know that one. You may also have heard it being called an influencer, but this is usually a little bit different. So this is more like a thought leader. So KOLs in Cardano are very important because they are going to make the introductions. And they are the people that you're going to want to know, that you're definitely going to want to make sure you're engaging with when it comes to social medias, and that you're interacting with, and hopefully that you're getting their attention as well, because you're proving the value that you're about to bring to the community. So the thing to remember, of course, when it comes to Catalyst projects is that it is a little bit about who you know, because you need them to spread the word about you, because this is a voting process. So it's not a popularity contest, but it is an awareness contest when it comes to something like this, because you do need to get voted above a threshold. So get to know the influential people in Cardano and engage with them. People that you should definitely be following if you're on socials is anyone in IOG, also known as IOHK, the community leaders and hosts of the community events and workshops. You'll see these guys posting all the time on Twitter, as well as in the Discords, to let you know about town halls that are coming up, or if there are community events in your area, make sure you're attending those. And then there are regional councils made up of Cardano ambassadors. So there's the Cardano Atlantic Council, the Cardano Japan Council, and the Eastern Cardano Council. And one of the things to remember when you're doing this with Cardano is that it is a worldwide organization, and the voters for Catalyst are worldwide. So you can't just focus in your region. You do need to try and talk to people in other areas as well. There are some really cool people all around the world doing amazing things and being so excited about Cardano that they want to hear more about what you're doing. And if they like your project and they feel that you're bringing good value, they're going to want to spread the word. So make sure you're reaching out to these guys and ask them if they can help you spread the word about your project. So if they have somebody they can introduce you to, if they have an event they can invite you to attend virtually or in person, make sure to ask, but be nice about it. On that note, Attend events. Don't miss out. There are always a bunch of different events that are going on in the Cardano community, both virtually and in person, depending on where you are. That it's very important to attend these. There are town halls, I believe they're every week at this point, that you can go to. You find out what's going on in the Cardano community. If you have not submitted to the current funding round yet, this is a fantastic place to really hear about what's going on in the community and to listen for what people are wishing was in the community, or wishing what tools or activities or different things that they could have in the Cardano community, and then use that to build out your project even further. So it's a really fantastic place actually for research. But if you're in the middle of a funding round, make sure that you're going to these town halls so that you can be engaging with other people of the Cardano community. And then what you'll want to do is attend the breakout rooms at the end of the town hall so that you can actually talk to these people one-on-one. They generally do this during any of the funding rounds where they have breakout rooms where you can just tell them what your project is and they can ask questions. You can get feedback. You can hear the questions that they're asking for you, and they may invite you to other things because you've been there and you've talked to them. And because, like I said, face-to-face builds trust. So even if this is virtual face-to-face, it's still a positive thing for people. They're more willing to introduce your project to maybe their giant group of followers on Twitter, or to another webinar where there's going to be a bunch of other people that are ADA holders that might be voting. So it's a fantastic place to go. And remember that this is your target audience. Everyone who's participating in a Cardano town hall are strong Cardano community members, and they're exactly who you want to know about your project. So this is the most important thing I think you can do once you've started applying for a Project Catalyst. And then, as always, make sure you're being positive and enthusiastic to everyone else who is attending the town hall. This doesn't mean you have to be fake, but it does mean that you should be encouraging of people, ask people about their projects, and then ask people for feedback, but don't harass them for it. So I think that's a really important line delineation is be nice. It gets you going a long way. Town halls, like I said, are once a week. You can find them currently on YouTube. So for past town halls, you can find them, you can watch them. You can get a little bit of insider information before you even have to attend one. Or if you're one of those people who has a little social anxiety, you can study them just to see what they're like before you attend one in person and feel a little more on the spot. So now that you've hopefully got your project out there, you've told people, this is exactly what my project is. It is my passion. I am doing this amazing thing and I'm building it for you. Won't you vote for me? Or what do you think? You are hopefully going to get feedback. And you should treat all feedback as a learning experience. No matter what somebody says, you should respond politely and respectfully. And then think about it. Do they have a valid point? If this feedback is not the first time you've heard this point, then it's probably very much valid feedback. If it's the first time you've heard this, feel free to take a beat. Say, that's interesting. Can I come back to you? Maybe you have more questions, a follow-up question on why did you say this, or maybe they're not understanding something, and that's cool. Maybe that means you need to explain something a little bit better. So there's differences between constructive feedback and unconstructive feedback, and those do not necessarily mean positive feedback and negative feedback. So I put a couple different examples here. These are just makeshift ones I came up with ChatGPT. You tell someone about your project and they say, your project sounds really interesting and has a lot of potential to make an impact. And you say, thank you, oh my gosh, and you feel good and you pat yourself on the back and that's fantastic. It's not super helpful though. This is positive feedback and it feels fantastic, but there's nothing specific about it. It's really vague. Honestly, at this point, I'm not entirely sure if they've even read my proposal. If somebody says, your proposal lacks any clear goals or measurable outcomes, so it doesn't seem worth funding, this sounds really kind of potentially upsetting. It sounds like negative feedback, but at the same time, they're giving you constructive feedback. You have not defined any clear goals or measurable outcomes. That's something that's fixable. You can do something with that. And this person is saying, if you had these, it might actually be worth funding. So take this as a learning element, and build upon this. Sometimes negative feedback is the thing that you really need. And sometimes positive feedback is great, but it's not super helpful. So remember to look for constructive versus unconstructive feedback, and follow up. If somebody gives you unconstructive feedback, ask questions to try and get more answers on how this can become constructive feedback. Can you tell me why? Is there a point that told you this sounded really good? Like, what was the moment that changed your mind that this was a project that should be funded? Excuse me. And then most importantly, when it comes to feedback, and especially if you're getting this feedback on social media, don't feed the trolls. It's just going to happen. It's social media. There are lovely people that just go around and do weird things on social media. Don't feed the trolls. Assess if it is a troll or not. And if it is, just delete the comment or hide the comment, depending on what social media you're on, and move along. Okay, technical. So this is one of the things that people said is they didn't know where to go for help. So there's a couple different scenarios where we have this. If you've submitted your grant, but you have not been yet approved, you might have questions on the Catalyst process, what's happening next, how things work, etc. One of the best places you can go for this is the Project Catalyst Discord. You can go into Discord and actually just search Project Catalyst Cardano. It pops right up. It's super fantastic. It has a, excuse me. It has a frequently asked questions entire thread. It has people that you can reach out to, and it has other people who are applying for Project Catalyst who probably also got the same questions if they haven't asked it yet. So I think that's a really fantastic area for you to go if you have questions on Catalyst. If you just need help getting the ball rolling, you have an idea for Project Catalyst and you haven't set it up yet, or you have an idea for Project Catalyst and you're just not really sure like how it's going to work or how to do things, you can find our YouTube channel, Decentral House, and we have so many hours of tutorial videos for you covering everything from marketing basics to bootstrapping to compliance help, and it's all designed specifically for blockchain startups. This was actually provided through a Cardano Catalyst grant. We've created videos after video after video of so much information for you as a new blockchain startup entrepreneur. Congratulations, you're an entrepreneur. To learn how to get the ball rolling, how to understand marketing, how to understand finance and fundraising, and the basics of legal blockchain help. So I would say check out our YouTube. There are, of course, other YouTubes as well, but I know that ours is here. It's created by Storm Partners, and we can help you if you have any questions. Always, of course, feel free to drop any questions in the chat of this video if you're watching this live, or in our YouTube questions section, and we'll get back to you too. If you have been funded and you have questions, one of the best things you can do is actually go into Idea Scale and search for projects that have been created to help those in the Cardano community who have funded projects. I will do a shameless plug for two of us, and that is that Storm Partners has our really fantastic legal team who is familiar with blockchain startups, and one of our funds that we've done through Fund 12 has been legal assistance for blockchain startups, specifically for those who have gone through the Catalyst program. And we have a project idea, number 30621, for Fund 13 to provide accessible ecosystem services for community empowerment to lower the barriers of entry for Catalyst projects. So we'll be providing legal, marketing, and ecosystem guidance for Catalyst projects. So that is my shameless plug for our one of our Fund 13 proposals to help projects out there. There are other projects out there to provide assistance for different things. We do legal marketing, finance, fundraising. But yeah, take a look at an idea scale, see what other projects are happening in the Cardano ecosystem, and you can often find a lot of help there as well. If you're not finding what you need, feel free to ask us and we can try and point you in the correct direction. So some general observations when we talked with projects that were not funded. Most people don't get funded because the right people aren't aware of their project. It's a tough thing to swallow. You could have a really, really fantastic project and just not enough people know about it. So once you've submitted, you need to fall into marketing mode. You need to be creating content. You need to be posting content. You need to be attending the town halls. Excuse me. And you need to be engaging with the Cardano community as much as possible. If you are in an area where there are Cardano meetups, that is the most fantastic time. You should hopefully be participating in them before you even start trying to get funded, but better late than never. Participate in the community as much as possible. There are so many things going on out there. Some really cool things happening with the Voltaire action, with the governance fork right now. There's so many cool things to engage with in the community that you really just have to find your people, whether you are a coding nerd, a governance nerd, a legal marketing and finance nerd like we are here at Storm. Find your people, engage with them, and tell them about your project and about, again, the value that you are bringing to the community. The most important thing, I'm going to say it a bajillion times, because you need to burn it into your brain. The very simple idea of what you're bringing to the Cardano community is the most important thing you can be communicating out there. Other things to think on, choosing the right category is also incredibly important. It's going to raise or lower your chances of actually getting funded. To get more details on this, like I said, webinar 1 of this series, you can find it in the playlist and it'll be linked below if you're watching this on YouTube. Yeah, the category that you're applying in really does make a difference, and it's going to determine how competitive it is for you to get funded. And then also, it's also likely that you should be breaking your project into multiple components, if you can, to stand a higher chance of having even one of them funded. So it's things to think about when you're really trying to define the value that you're bringing to the community. See if you're actually bringing multiple values that could be broken into separate projects, that could be submitted with a lower monetary request when you're going into Catalyst. It's possible that both could get funded just because they're a lower value, so they have a lower threshold when you're coming to do things. Excuse me. Yeah. So smaller and more numerous independent projects create more choices and opportunities for the ecosystem. Like I said, this is both a good and a bad thing. It does mean that people have more choices when it comes to who is going to, or who they're going to fund. But it does also mean that there's some really cool things out there to help improve the Cardano community. Fund 13 is going on right now. Excuse me. Every fund round has a slightly different take. There have been funding rounds where people were able to be downvoted. I believe that was Fund 10. Here in Fund 13, the level of ADA required to vote was lowered down to 25 ADA, I believe. So there are a lot more people that are able to vote this round. So I'm really curious how that one's going to happen as well. One of the most important things is whether you get funded or not, and especially if you didn't get funded, take a step back, take a breather. I know this is a long process and it's very stressful. And then when you have a moment, assess what you did, what you didn't do, and what would you do to do better. Hopefully this webinar has been helpful in highlighting some points of maybe getting the word out there, because that is one of the hardest parts, I think, for people when they're doing the Catalyst project, is getting the word out there and getting the right word out there. So again, I'm going to say it one more time, make sure you're really strongly communicating the value that you're creating for the Cardano ecosystem. And that's the word that you should just be constantly putting out there to people to let them know about this so that they vote for you. We are Storm partners. And I will tell you that we have applied for the Catalyst program. This is our 4th round. We did apply in Fund 10. We did not make it. And then we were successful in Fund 11 and 12. And now we're currently applying in Fund 13 with a couple different projects. So we are in the same boat as you. We've worked hard at this. And I hope you've learned from the things that we've learned as well. If you're watching this live, voting starts tomorrow for Fund 13, which is very exciting. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's probably already live, and then it will officially close on December 12th. So good luck to you guys, and thank you so much for joining this webinar. Does anyone have any questions? Can I give it once, twice? Cool. Thank you guys so much for joining. If you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us on LinkedIn. My name is Ellie. I'm here at Decentral House, and I am part of Storm Partners, who provides legal, marketing, finance, fundraising, and advisory services for Web3 ecosystems. And we will see you probably, guys, at the next town hall. Bye.